Number 8. Haley Morinico. In the afternoon of May the 31st of 2021, a California teen noticed a bear climbing over a brick wall at her Bradbury residence in the San Gabriel Valley foothills. As was captured by the property security camera, the mother bear was walking along the top of the wall with her 2 cubs when 17-year-old Haley Morinoco's 4 dogs charged the wild animals and began barking at them. The bear cubs ran away, but their mother lingered behind and attempted to pick up the dogs, who continued their frantic barking. Speaking about the incident during subsequent media interviews, Morinico revealed that upon witnessing the bear trying to harm her pets, her instincts kicked in, and she charged towards the animal herself. She gave the bear a forceful push, sending it tumbling over the other side of the brick wall. The teen then picked up her dogs and fled back into the house. The bear reportedly poked its head up one more time before wandering back behind the tree to join her cubs. A biologist with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife later indicated that the bear had likely viewed Morinico's dogs as a threat to her cubs and was thus acting on her motherly protective instinct when she attacked them. Morinico reportedly suffered a sprained finger during her brief altercation with the bear, while her dogs were left completely unharmed. Number 7. Chris Allen. In February of 2020, a video surfaced online in which a man prevented a distracted woman from being struck by a car while she was crossing the street in downtown Cincinnati, Ohio. The woman, who was looking down at her phone and wearing headphones as she walked across the roadway, was unknowingly entering directly into the path of oncoming traffic. A nearby pedestrian, later identified as 25-year-old Chris Allen, noticed the woman's predicament and sprinted towards her as a car was approaching. He pulled her out of the street, effectively saving her from an imminent collision with the vehicle. In a subsequent interview with Inside Edition, Allen advised people to stay off their phones when walking about the city, stating, "Your safety is everything." Number 6. Stephanie Lontz. In dramatic doorbell camera footage filmed at a home in Las Vegas, Nevada, 19-year-old Lauren Ray was captured trying to protect her pet dog from a frenzied pit bull. The video, which emerged in December of 2021 and promptly went viral online, showed Ray petting the pit bull on her front lawn for a couple of seconds before her own dog, Max, stepped outside as well. The other animal's presence sent the pit bull into hysterics, and Ray had to pick Max up to shield him from its subsequent attack. The teen began screaming as she struggled to keep the raging pit bull away from Max, which eventually caught the attention of an Amazon employee who was passing through the neighborhood. The quick-thinking delivery driver, identified as Stephanie Lontz, rushed to assist the imperiled young woman by standing between her and the pit bull. Lontz yelled, "Bad dog," as she hopped from side to side to keep the pit bull at bay, allowing Ray to bring Max back inside the house. A few days after the incident, Ray and her family publicly thanked Lontz for her brave actions during a press conference for local media outlets. The Amazon driver described how the teen's cries for help had made her think of her own child, and stated she would hope someone would jump in and help her if she was in a similar situation. Number 5. David Fung. In the late summer of 2016, parts of Louisiana were ravaged by unprecedented flooding caused by prolonged rainfall, which ultimately resulted in 60 total deaths and the destruction of thousands of homes and businesses. A harrowing video broadcast on the CBS affiliate station WFAB showed a woman and her dog trapped in a red soft-top convertible that was sinking on the flooded streets of Baton Rouge. The woman reportedly began shouting, "I'm drowning," as her vehicle dipped beneath the surface of the floodwater. Her cries for help were heard by 3 men on a nearby boat, who promptly came to her rescue. One of the men, later identified by the New York Daily News as David Fung, immediately jumped into the water and pulled the woman out from the car's sunroof. as the vehicle became completely submerged. After the woman was brought to the boat, she indicated that her dog was still beneath the surface, at which point Feng swam back down to find it. Moments later, the man emerged with the dog in his grasp and, along with the animal's owner, were able to get to safety unharmed. According to subsequent reports, the Louisiana floods, which occurred during a 10-day period in August of 2016, has been called the worst U.S. natural disaster since Hurricane Sandy in 2012. Number 4. Haley Strong. In the early morning hours of July the 5th of 2022, Ohio woman Haley Strong was driving home from an Independence Day celebration in Fairfield when she saw a building on fire about a mile away. The 23-year-old woman and her roommate swiftly sprung into action and drove directly towards the site of the flames, which had engulfed the garage of a nearby residence. As was captured by the house's doorbell camera, Strong ran to the front door and started banging on it to alert the homeowners of the perilous situation unfolding in their garage. She pounded on the front door for about 2 minutes before the residents, identified as Brittany Downing and Josh Ellis, finally answered. It later emerged that the couple had been in their bedroom watching the popular Netflix series Stranger Things, while their 9 children were asleep when they heard Strong at the front door. Downing and Ellis gathered their family and quickly evacuated the home, which at that point had begun to catch fire as well. In the incident's aftermath, Downing thanked Strong in a Facebook post, which was uploaded along with a screenshot that had been taken from her doorbell camera. Strong later reunited with the family, all of whom were left unharmed thanks to her quick thinking. As of the latest updates on the matter, investigators were still working to ascertain the original cause of the garage fire. Number 3. Richard Wilbanks. On a Sunday morning in late October of 2020, Florida man Richard Wilbanks was walking with his dog, Gunner, by the pond near his home in Estero when he had an alarming encounter with an alligator. According to subsequent reports on the matter, they were walking along the shoreline when suddenly the massive reptile, which was estimated to have been about 4 feet long, quickly emerged from the water and lunged itself towards the dog, a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. Gunner, having been trapped within the alligator's jaws, was then dragged into the water, but his quick-thinking owner immediately jumped into action to save him. Wilbanks reportedly leapt into the pond and pried his beloved pet from the gator's grasp. Upon releasing Gunner, however, Wilbanks himself became the target of the reptile's attack as it latched its teeth onto his hand. The man eventually managed to free himself, and he, along with his dog, stumbled back to his nearby house, dripping blood. After stitching up his injured hands himself, Wilbanks took Gunner to an animal hospital, where doctors discovered that he had water in his lungs as well as a puncture wound on his body. Subsequent x-rays indicated that the animal was free of any serious internal injuries, and he was ultimately allowed to return home after only a few days. Number 2. The heroic Texas inmates. A group of inmates being held in custody in Parker County, Texas, broke out of their cell in order to render aid to a corrections officer who was experiencing a medical emergency on June the 23rd of 2016. The incident, which was documented in security camera footage later released to the public, began while the jail guard, identified as Gary Grimm, was chatting with the inmates in their cell. In the middle of their conversation, Grimm slumped over in his chair, unconscious. The inmates, who were being held in a minimum security holding room in the basement of the Parker County District Courthouse, were initially unsure of what to do, as there was no one else within earshot to help the incapacitated officer. However, a few seconds later, the inmates were shown on the surveillance video forcing the cell door open, at which point they discovered that the guard wasn't breathing and had no discernible pulse. They banged on the walls in an attempt to get the attention of others in the building, and even tried using the officer's radio to call for assistance. A sheriff's deputy and another corrections officer in the building eventually went to the basement to investigate the clamor, whereupon they called for emergency medical personnel, who were ultimately able to stabilize Grimm's condition. Subsequent reports indicated that the latter, who'd suffered a heart attack on the day he was rescued by the quick-thinking inmates, medically retired from his position in December of 2017. After more than 20 years of work in security, at Texas prisons and jails. Number 1. Savannah Jones. California teen Savannah Jones was babysitting her 4-year-old niece on February the 28th of 2017 when she heard someone knocking on the front door of her family's Montclair residence. She looked through the peephole and saw a man whom she didn't know standing outside. The stranger then tried turning the doorknob, prompting Jones to grab her little niece and lock themselves in her mother's bathroom. It was later detailed how the teen subsequently heard 3 loud bangs outside the bathroom door, indicating the man had somehow entered the house. Although Jones reportedly wanted to call the police, she chose instead to text her mother for fear of the intruder hearing her voice. After receiving Jones's frantic messages, her mother contacted both the police and the next-door neighbor. The latter walked over to the front of the house and began shouting Jones's name, which successfully scared off the burglar. Moments later, officers arrived at the home and discovered that the unidentified suspect had ransacked a room just a few feet away from where Jones and her niece were hiding, dumping various items from the closet and drawers onto the bed. The intruder ultimately fled without stealing anything, and the police credited Jones's quick thinking with preventing anything worse from happening. Thanks for watching. Would you want the ability to know something bad was about to happen, even if you weren't able to stop it? Let us know in the comments section below.